Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar this morning. I appreciate that you took time out to learn a little bit about EnGenius Telecom and the Durphone SIP in particular. We're going to go through this. My name's Doug, and my co-host here is Gabe. We're happy to answer some questions after the webinar. Or you can shoot us those via chat. And let us know if you have any questions. We'll try to answer those as well. So let us begin here. Well, yeah, well, I might have to, oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Today we're gonna cover our claim to fame, as well as a little telecom overview, the markets where we fit, Durphone high points, and the Durphone SIP, and some difference makers we have in our product line. Now, as many of you may know, and those that are not familiar with EnGenius, our claim to fame is range. We have been known as a leader in long-range industrial cordless phones for almost 20 years now, and really that stays with the SIP product and the Durphone line, as well as the Freestyle line, is having long range, and that's what makes us unique. So part of getting at the range is having a low frequency. We're using 900 megahertz. We're not at the 2.4 gig. We're not at the 5 gig. We're not even at the DEC, the 1.9 gig. We're a nice low range, which allows us to get nice low frequency, which allows us to get a long range. And we have a high power behind that range, or behind that signal, in that we have just under 1 watt, which keeps us in an unlicensed band. So in most of our products, there is no license required. And for the telephone side, none of our products require a license. And the antenna sensitivity, actually there's two things on the antenna that help contribute to range. One of them is the antenna sensitivity, which just means that we can listen better and pick up a signal from further away. So all of those things play into range. And the other one we're going to get into when we start talking about some of the difference makers, about a unique ability of our systems to be able to have a outdoor antenna as part of that system to improve coverage. So how much is this coverage? We've been talking a little bit about our claim to fame of range. And just to give you an idea of how much coverage this cordless phone can cover, we quote 3 different ranges or coverage scenarios based on the environment. So for a indoor place like a warehouse or manufacturing plant that's semi-open, semi-obstructed, you're looking about 250,000 square feet. So if you think of a grocery store as about 50,000 square feet, or a Home Depot at maybe 150,000 square feet, just give you a perspective. So about 250,000 square foot for those kind of environments. In a wide open area, someplace like a farm or a ranch, then you'd be looking about 3,000 acres of coverage. Massive coverage in that wide open area, and this isn't going through trees, or you can't be obstructed with the hills or mountains, things like that. But if it is a wide open area, 3,000 acres of coverage. And then finally, 12 floors of in-building penetration. So think of an office building, an assisted living center, anything like that, where they are covering multiple stories. You think about 12 floors of coverage, motel, something on that type of environment. And so let's go into a little bit on the telecom overview. Okay, they are two different models that EnGenius offers. The first model in our flagship models are under the Duraphone brand, and then a second version is known as the Freestyle brand. Now, if you're looking at your screen there, you can see there's two different pictures. The one on your right is the Duraphone. It has kind of a grippy handset. And then the one on the left is the Freestyle, a little sleeker, designed more for office type environment, home environment, things like that. And as we look at this chart, I just wanted to point out a couple of things here. Yes, there are, in both those families of phones, there are single line phones available. In the Duraphone, there's also multi-line or multi-port phones available. And there is a two-way radio repeater available for Duraphone. We'll talk about that a little bit. And both systems are expandable. Now, the Duraphone is expandable both in the lines, so 1 to 32 lines with having 8 bases, and up to 90 handsets. Whereas the Freestyle, it's really just the handsets, so you're looking at up to 9 handsets on that base. That's a single line base. We have TAP. TAP is a protocol that is used in nurse calls, so assisted living type places. A lot of them will have nurse calls, as you can imagine, and interface with that with TAP. So we do have systems on the Duraphone line that can support TAP. We have systems, obviously today we'll be talking about our SIP system. So we have a SIP system, and we do have optional indoor and outdoor antennas available for both systems. And as I continue going a little bit deeper into the telecom overview, these are the different models that are available for the Duraphone and the Freestyle. As you go down to the bottom of the chart, you can see that there's a Freestyle 1 and a Freestyle 2. Those are both single line systems, and they still have tremendous coverage. As a matter of fact, this is a typo. That should read 100,000 square feet for those Freestyle systems. And they're meant for like an office environment with 9 handsets. And they also do our two-way radio broadcast and intercom feature as well. So really, really neat systems. On the Duraphone, again, Duraphone is our flagship line. So you have the Duraphone Pro, which has 4 lines per base, up to 90 handsets. It does have the two-way radio in any of those handsets where it can do a broadcast or intercom off the handset to another handset. And with the Duraphone Pro, there is a handset that's called the Duraphone UHF, which actually will work with UHF radios, analog UHF radios, so that a user can have one handset, have telephone, the same long-range telephone that the Duraphone Pro would offer, and as well can communicate with UHF radios that are already deployed. So kind of a neat handset option that you have for the Duraphone Pro system. That's the optional two-way radio handset only, is called a DuraWalkie. So if you have customers that just want, or users that just want to have a two-way radio only but no telephone access, there is a DuraWalkie available for both the Duraphone Pro and the Duraphone 1X. And as you can see, expandable to 8 bases on the Pro, 4 bases on the 1X. The difference between the Pro and the 1X is that the Pro has 4 ports per base and the 1X has 1 line per base. So we can tell the difference between those. Same range, same durability, neat systems. The Duraphone SIP we're going to be going into heavily today, but same coverage area, same durable handset. The form factor looks the same. This one, because it's SIP accounts, it really has 10 SIP accounts on that base unit, which will allow for 4 concurrent calls going on at any one time. So all those 10 SIP accounts can be reached independently, just like an extension, and they can all have access to those 4 talk paths, if you will, but only 4 can be happening at any one time. On those handsets, you still have the two-way radio capability, you still have the intercom capability. There's just not a Durawalkie handset available for the SIP, but you still have that functionality on the full handset that's available for the Durafone SIP. And expandable, it is really just based on one base. So you're looking 10 handsets, 4 talk paths, 1 base system. And let's talk a little bit about the markets that we're used in. Okay, obviously with the long range that we can offer, we go into a lot of different markets, and as you read these markets here, the important thing to think about is, one, do these markets require a large area where there are employees that are mobile within that area? And if you look at all of these, all of that answer is yes. They're mobile employees. It's a large area. Obviously, if you had a small 1,000-square-foot store, and you could get away with a consumer cordless phone. You don't really need to have a long-range cordless phone. And the same thing, you have a really big call center, and everybody is seated at their desk with a headset on, and they're not really mobile. There's no real reason for a cordless phone application. But if you look at things like a retail store or grocery store, a theater, a motel or hotel, assisted living is huge for us, self-storage places, all of those have people, employees and staff that are running around that facility and require the ability to communicate as they're staying mobile. And so there's a lot of different opportunities where we are a good fit for those environments where frankly they've been struggling to find a solution for their environment to provide communication. And that can be that they've turned to cellular phones, or they use just two-way radios, but are really tied out being connected to their people that are at their desk, or to keep calls coming into their phone system, or they don't have call access at all because they're using just UHF two-way radios. Some of our customers that are using us today include customers from retail like Home Goods, which is a TJ Maxx or TJX company. HEB is a grocery store, like Wegmans if you're back east. Warehousing like FedEx. Hospitality like Motel 6. Great Dane Trailers is a manufacturer of trailers, and Brookdale, which is the #1 assisted living company here in the U.S. All of these different environments use us and have a need for us and their employees to be having that communication throughout their facility. Okay, I wanted to touch base on some of the things that make us unique and highlight with our systems. Obviously, we're an analog-based phone system, so it means that you can take a standard phone line, if this is a home or if this is a small business, and they can plug in just their standard phone line into the back of our base units, and it will work on the everything but the SIP, right? It can be behind an analog PBX. So if I have a PBX system and I just have some analog ports, I can work behind that. and either the Pro or 1X would work. If I had a SIP-based PBX, a VoIP PBX, I can use the SIP system and plug directly into that. If I had a hosted PBX that provided SIP, I can use that and plug in with the SIP system. And with any of those, I still get that long-range coverage. I still have the two-way radio. I still have the long-range intercom between handsets. On top of this, unlike being a cellular phone, I don't have any airtime charges. I don't have any monthly fees that go with it, so I don't have to sign up for a contract. It's you buy it, you use it, you're done with our equipment, and you can use it as much as you want, and you don't have to worry about overreaches. On top of that, because we're 900 megahertz and we're not at the 2.4 or 5 gig of Wi-Fi, we don't interfere with Wi-Fi. We're not another link that a hacker could get into that may not be as secure to get into the Wi-Fi system and the networking side. We're completely separate from that by being at 900 megahertz. And a matter of fact, as technology changed and people saw that I could go to having voice over 2.4 or 5 gigs, a lot of the technology makers moved to those frequencies. And those have now become kind of crowded with Wi-Fi and security systems and other voice communication. By us staying at 900 megahertz, we have a great bandwidth, and it's now really less dense than the Wi-Fi channels. So it's really, really a nice system to be at, nice frequency to be at. Okay, let's talk a little bit on the handsets and the handset options. For that Durafone Pro system, there are 3 different handsets that are available that will work with that Pro base. There's the standard full-featured Durafone Pro handset, which gives you the telephone, gives you the intercom between handsets, and gives you the digital broadcast to a group of other handsets or any number of 7 groups. So with that group of other handsets, you can have that separated where that group is now having 7 different groups, and I can take a broadcast message to any one of those groups or to all handsets depending on the message that we want. And as far as durability is concerned, the Durafone Pro handsets, and you're going to see this consistent throughout, actually is drop tested onto concrete from 6 feet 50 times. So it's like somebody was on a ladder and they dropped the handset every day or every week for a year onto concrete, so like a warehouse, and all of those things will survive. The difference on the next, well, matter of fact, I'm going to skip the walkies and come back to that, but let me drop down to that UHF handset. The UHF handset is a little different in that it has 2 radios with it. The 2 radios, one is our 900 megahertz radio, so it does all those same functions we just talked about. And the other radio is the UHF radio. And that UHF radio is a radio that will be able to work with UHF analog radios from other makers. So this could even be radios, this could even be that radios that are from Motorola or Kenwood, and any of those radios, as long as they're analog and UHF, we can program our handset to communicate with them. Now I'm getting some feedback that some people aren't seeing the presentation here. So let me just be sure that I have everything checked off. Now I restarted that presentation, so your screen may have gone black there for a little bit, but hopefully now it is. And if anyone is not seeing it, I would ask that you log out and log back in, and then we can see if you can see then. But I assume that everyone else can see. If not, please do send us a little chat message. And if everyone's not seeing it, then maybe I'll log out and log back in. So just give us some feedback. Hopefully that corrected it. And sorry for anyone that wasn't seeing this. But we will send you guys this presentation after we're done. And so feel free, if worst comes to worst, that I'll end up sending it to you, and you can review that. It's fairly self-explanatory as you see it. But let me go ahead and continue now. The Duraphone SIP, same type of things, same long range, same telephone, just via SIP, private intercom, private digital group broadcast between handsets, same durability. The 1X, straight across, same thing. And then you go into the Durawalkies. The Durawalkies are a little unique. Like I said, those are just the two-way radio handsets. They have the same durability, still can do private intercom and group broadcast. The difference here is that they don't have telephone access. But you do notice that I did have a couple of asterisks there. What the asterisk means is that you can be on, let's take, for example, the Pro handset, get a phone call, and you can transfer that call over to the Durawalkie handset. So as long as the call is transferred from a full-featured handset to the Durawalkie, they can actually get a phone call. And that makes us really, really unique, that unlike a two-way radio only, this one allows you to be able to take calls and say, yeah, this is best handled by, Joe, but Joe only has a Durawalkie, but I can still send him that phone call, and he can take the call and assist the customer from there. So really, really unique functions. And that functionality works the same for the regular Durawalkie, which works with the Pro system, as well as the Durawalkie 1X, which works with the Duraphone 1X system. Now let's drop down to the two Freestyle 1, Freestyle 2. Here they have long-range telephone. They do have that two-way radio, intercom, and broadcast capability. These are less durable handsets. These are made for office. They're carry-about phones, in that they generally will be used in places like a motel where you have a front desk person or a bellhop. That's usually their station, but every once in a while they have to walk away and they want something to take that coverage. The Freestyle 1 and Freestyle 2 are perfect for that situation. The difference between these two is the Freestyle 1, the base unit itself has a keypad on it, and the base unit is where you can charge the main handset. Whereas the Freestyle 2, the base unit is just plain and is meant to be mounted on high on a wall, give you the best coverage, and there is no keypad on that base unit. So that is the difference between the Freestyle 1 and Freestyle 2. Otherwise, the coverage is the same and the functionality is the same. Yeah, I just wanted to check the chat there real quick to be sure that no one was having any trouble. It looks good. So we're going to change gears here a little bit, and I'm going to turn things over to Gabe as we talk about the Duraphone SIP and some of its feature sets and go into it a little bit quicker.
I gotta be on there.
Okay.
I'm Gabriel, one of the field application engineers over here at EnGenius. So we have the Duraphone SIP here. As you can see, it's the same housing as the Duraphone 1X. Pretty much with the Duraphone SIP, we have 1X that's non-linkable for the base stations, just with a Ethernet on there to tie up to your SIP server. In this particular slide here, you see we have an outside SIP server connection and an in-building PBX with a SIP server. So stuff like Vonage Business is one of those cloud-based ones. You could hook up to that with our SIP and get that working. And then also if you have a locally host SIP, you could hook that up right there to the back of our base station. We also have a analog port on this as well. This doesn't show it, but that means that you're able to actually have a failover just in case if the SIP goes down. It'll actually have that analog and is behave just like a 1X. So you have one line, and then those handsets share those lines. So that's nice. You know, they have that backup as well. Oops. Okay. So it supports up to 10 SIP accounts, like Doug was saying. You have only 4 simultaneous talk paths, so only 4 current calls are able to go on at a time. The auxiliary PSTN port I was talking about earlier, it's 900 megahertz, not 2.4 or 5 gigahertz, so you have less interference with devices there. Most of the 900 megahertz frequency is unlicensed, and basically people not really utilizing it as much, so it's actually helped out with our range, which is nice. We have the radio broadcast to handsets, so you could do handset-to-handset communication. Now, when you're doing handset-to-handset communication, you're not going through the base station unless you're doing like a broadcast. If you're just doing a handset-to-handset, it's actually going to be a little bit less range than it would be from a broadcast to the handset through the base station to all the other handsets. You have a full duplex private intercom. That's the handset-to-handset one. And then the handset is also, it's a durable handset. It's not IP rated like the UHF, but it's equivalent to IP 44, I believe. So as you can see in this slide, it's we have 2 choices. You could do 4 simultaneous SIP calls at once, or you could do 3 SIP calls in 1 analog call. So that's what that shows, which is nice.
Hey, Gabe, can I ask you a question on
Yes.
that auxiliary port? So if we had this set up so that my handsets are using the SIP accounts and SIP lines, but I hooked that auxiliary port and I attached it to a call box for my delivery door.
Okay.
And so that when somebody's at the delivery door, they hit the button. Would this then ring those handsets off that, or does that not take an inbound call, if you will?
It could still take an inbound call and ring all handsets as well.
Okay, so then I could respond to the door via that analog port, even though I'm not making calls from it.
Any handset.
If I didn't hook it up to a phone line, I could do it by just the door call.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Just like the 1X.
Excellent, excellent.
So that's nice. You're getting like a 1X and a SIP.
Thanks.
No problem. This is the independent intercom and broadcast. When you're doing handset to handset, it's a full duplex 2-way communication. Like I said before, the range will be about, they say 25 to 75% less on average. But it gives you that capability for those. It's the same as the Durawalkies.
Right. Yeah, so because you're not going through that base unit and you're going handset to handset, especially with that shorter antenna on these handsets, so I'm going through more obstacles likely. So rule of thumb, probably cut my coverage area in half. So if I'm in an environment that's 250,000 square feet and I have telephone calls doing 2-way radio between handsets, I'm probably really about 125,000 square feet as a rule of thumb.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's just something to keep in mind.
Right, yeah.
The broadcast is a half duplex, so it's not a full duplex. And the case for this is someone puts a handset, like an oil rig, into a call box. They put it to a PA speaker, and then what they do is they put that into one particular group, and then they broadcast to that group. So effectively, they have a PA system just with an extra handset. Excellent. That's one nice way of going around it. So this is set up on the GUI of the SIP. So you can see here it has a default of admin to get into it, just like our internet products. And this is how you configure the IP address and set up the SIP accounts. You can see there's certain options in there as well for that. All right, so this is an example of how you would set it up. First, you want to set it up on your local area network, just like you would for any infrastructure device. Well, you could do DHCP or static. We recommend you do static so you know how to find it on your network. That's one benefit to having the SIP as opposed to a Duraphone 1X is that you're actually able to monitor it with your networking. Now you're able to get to it remotely, power cycle it, put it to register handsets remotely. So that's kind of nice, you know, the functionality of it, network functionality of monitoring it and managing it as opposed to the 1X, which is just an analog one. And this is how they're created a sample one here for this right here. As you can see, the 10 hosts are right there.
Right, so we're,
sorry,
we can go back to that. Yeah, just so I can ask a couple of questions here.
Yes.
So if I'm with a SIP handset ID, do I have to tie that to a particular, I'll call it an extension, a SIP account? How does that work as far as, can I label these things differently if I go to have an incoming call and I tell them I'm at X extension? How does that work?
Yes, so the handsets are here. You see on the left-hand side of the bottom image, you see the handset ID, and then they have a SIP number, which is equivalent to the extension here, and then you have a display name, wherever you want to display on there. So if you wanted like another handset to take a different particular SIP number, you could actually do that under the edit there. Under the edit button on the action side, there's an edit and release. So you click that, and then you have different options of what you want to do with that particular one. So you're able to, on the fly, if you want to, change a particular SIP number to a different handset or a different handset to a SIP number. And then also have it display a different name too when you're doing the two ways as well. Which is nice, you know, like I said, more or easier management than you did for the 1X. And then this is obviously, you're also able to upgrade the firmware on these base stations in the field. The only one to think of the version 3s for the Pros you're able to do that with. For the 1X, I still don't think you're able to do that. So this is nice. So you're able to field upgrade the firmware on these particular base stations, and also grab a configuration and also save the config. If you're doing multiple deployments, you could just grab a config and then do some minor changes. So that's nice too. You don't have to start from scratch like you did with the other ones. Right. So that's also nice too.
Okay, and we're going to spend a couple of minutes going through some of the difference makers, and then we'll be ready for your questions. So let me walk you through a couple of these things that are really unique about our systems. And part of the interest when you're doing a large environment is knowing how far can you go. And there is a built-in tool, receive strength system indicator or signal indicator, so an RSSI indicator that's built into the handsets, and it allows you to take a handset and see how well that coverage is going to be in any given area of a large environment. Now, because we had talked about the Duraphone UHF, this does not work for that radio, the UHF part of the radio, just the 900 megahertz side. And we had talked about earlier that the bases can have external antennas. There's two antennas kits available for these that make us really be able to maximize the coverage area. This coverage, the picture shown here is the outdoor antenna. So think of this as probably 2.5 feet high antenna. Go on a pole, sit on top of a roof, get above a bunch of obstacles. So if your environment was like an auto dealership and you wanted to have coverage indoors as well as outdoors, you could have this antenna just sitting on the roof. Enough signal would lead through the roof, because it's really only one obstacle, the roof itself, into the showroom. and yet you can cover the whole lot. So wherever the cars may be, or the trucks, or if this is an equipment rental area, or a campground, a number of environments I'm sure that you can think about that could use an outdoor type antenna. Now this antenna does come with the coax. The FCC does make us have a unique adapter for it. So it is a reverse thread, so before you take off the antenna that's on the base, remember you got to go the opposite direction. So before you get the wrench out, turn the antenna the opposite direction is than you would to take on and off a normal item. So this is reverse thread. And then this connector with the coax would go on to the antenna and the base and replace the rubber duck antenna that's on the base. And the coax is 60 feet, roughly, it's 20 meters, so a little over 60 feet. And it's the Times Microwave LMR 400, so that's a low-loss cable. And the antenna itself is a 6 dBi gain antenna. And we'll work with any of the models from the Freestyle all the way through the Duraphone Pro. If you're going outdoors, unlike Southern California, a lot of places we understand in the rest of the world have weather. And with weather, it may be electrical storms. And at electrical storms, we can build up some static electricity on a big metal object like an antenna. And that static electricity can build to the point where it wants to go to ground. And if you don't have a way to interrupt that going to ground, it will go to the base. And it will fry that base if there's enough static charge built up. So there is a lightning protection kit available for that, and that would allow you to take it and go to ground outside before the static charge reaches the base unit. So depending on your local codes, it will either go to a grounding rod or a grounding plate, but that is a gas fuse that's in there. And so a gas fuse can discharge about 300 times. So typically, that means in a, outside of Southern California area, but in an area that's a little bit more active with weather, Florida, you're probably looking about once a year, once every other year, that you'd have to change out that fuse. Oh, and if you do have damage to the base, because if you took a direct lightning strike, let me tell you that charge is going to blow this protector away as well. But and you do have damage to the base, and you did have the lightning protection on there, that base unit would be covered under warranty if it's still in the warranty period. This is a picture of our indoor antenna. So if you are taking this inside but need better coverage from where your base unit is being mounted, and a lot of people put their base into phone closets, and the phone closets aren't the best area to get coverage. They're usually in the back of a building. They're usually next to a bunch of other electrical things that interfere with other electrical things. So you want to get that antenna outside of that area. And so by doing that, you can use this outdoor antenna, this indoor antenna, and do the same thing. It takes the place of the rubber duck antenna on the base. It still comes with that 60 feet of LMR 400 cable, and you put this up on the ceiling, and it gets really great coverage. So think assisted living, think of an office building, something like that, or even a grocery store where you're trying to get coverage more centralized to where the workers are. We also have an antenna splitter. So the antenna splitter allows you to take a signal from the base and put two different antennas on that signal. So I can have an indoor antenna and an outdoor antenna. Could have a couple of indoor antennas or a couple of outdoor antennas. Any which way you want to match this. Now, the signal itself is split 50-50. so that you are sending 50% of the signal one direction, 50% the other direction. So you want to, think about this as you're deploying antennas. But if your coverage is where, yeah, I'm trying to get coverage into my walk-in refrigerator of a grocery store as well as the normal aisles of a grocery store, this may be the best solution for you to be able to put an antenna on the inside of that walk-in refrigerator as well as out in the main part of the store. Or if we go back to the auto dealership, you may want to have coverage in the parts department as well as the lot, and split the antenna that way. So lots of different options, and the FAAs are here to work with you as far as discussing your particular environment, your challenges, your concerns, and making recommendations. They have seen a lot of different environments, and so pull on their experience to give you the best recommendations. We went through this chart earlier, but I wanted to bring it up again, but this time with the MSRPs of these handsets. So we have handsets from the freestyle ones, which are the non-durable, but the sleek office-looking handsets for about $140. And then you can go all the way up to the dual radio UHF handset for about $500. So any of these handsets with all that functionality, working as two-way radios, as long-range telephones, and whether you need the durability or more of the sleek environment, are available at these different price points. And it does make us a really economical choice for those environments that, choices get limited. And we do understand there are a couple of choices you can choose from. Let me mention a couple of competitors with both Vocera and Spectralink. Great products. They can cover large areas, but they do require a lot of backbone put in because they do work on the Wi-Fi network. And so that tends to be a crowded network. It costs you a lot to put in, dedicated APs for voice to separate it from your data network, whereas our system is that single base covering this large area. Where I have seen Spectralink and Vocera do very well is in hospital settings. These are large environments with lots of users. Those are great. If that's your environment, I strongly recommend looking into them. If your environment is non-hospital, we can be a really cost-effective solution and do virtually everything that their system can do at a better frequency with extremely less cost. So definitely check out our solutions on those. So now we're ready to take any questions that you might have. So feel free to ask some questions, and we'll go ahead and try to answer those. And I see that there's a couple of them here. Oops. Great. So, okay, so we have a question on Duraphone SIP's compatibility with Toshiba, the IP Edge, and would you use 1 to 4 of the IP SIP extensions? Obviously, with the because you're assigning SIP accounts, you can have up to 10 SIP accounts on there. Particularly with the Toshiba, I don't know whether you're familiar with it or not. It for sure works. But yeah, for the most part, We haven't heard anybody having any issues with connecting to virtually any of the SIP systems out there. But Gabe, do you have any other insight into that?
I haven't heard of anyone having trouble with Toshiba IP Edge.
Okay.
So it is an open source, it is an open source program they install on the base station to do the SIP. I can't quite remember the name, but it's derivative of the asterisk.
Okay.
So if it's able to, like, if asterisk will work on it, then ours should be able to work as well on that one as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Still seeing that one. So I think what's going on here is this. Watch. Where's your button at there? Your screen extension. I think what the problem. Yes, we did record this, and it is available for for later download. I believe the problem we're running into is the screen extension.
Okay.
So it's recording just this and not the screen extension. That's what's going on.
Okay, well, sorry about that, guys, if I couldn't see the screen. But we will send out this presentation so that you can, review that and see some of those charts and the, pictures of the products. Again, sorry if we missed that, and we'll try to correct this for our next webinar. But thank you all, and I'm sorry we didn't get to too many of your questions because all you had was the one screenshot there. So, all right, well, thanks everyone, and I hope everyone has a good day. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar this morning. I appreciate that you took time out to learn a little bit about EnGenius Telecom and the Durafone SIP in particular. We're going to go through this. My name's Doug, and my co-host here is Gabe. We're happy to answer some questions after the webinar. Or you can shoot us those via chat. And let us know if you have any questions. We'll try to answer those as well. So let us begin here. Well, yeah, well, I might have to, oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Today we're gonna cover our claim to fame, as well as a little telecom overview, the markets where we fit, Durafone high points, and the Durafone SIP, and some difference makers we have in our product line. Now, as many of you may know, and those that are not familiar with EnGenius, our claim to fame is range. We have been known as a leader in long-range industrial cordless phones for almost 20 years now, and really that stays with the SIP product and the Durafone line, as well as the Freestyle line, is having long range, and that's what makes us unique. So part of getting at the range is having a low frequency. We're using 900 megahertz. We're not at the 2.4 gig. We're not at the 5 gig. We're not even at the DEC, the 1.9 gig. We're a nice low range, which allows us to get nice low frequency, which allows us to get a long range. And we have a high power behind that range, or behind that signal, in that we have just under 1 watt, which keeps us in an unlicensed band. So in most of our products, there is no license required. And for the telephone side, none of our products require a license. And the antenna sensitivity, actually there's two things on the antenna that help contribute to range. One of them is the antenna sensitivity, which just means that we can listen better and pick up a signal from further away. So all of those things play into range. And the other one we're going to get into when we start talking about some of the difference makers, about a unique ability of our systems to be able to have a outdoor antenna as part of that system to improve the coverage. So how much is this coverage? We've been talking a little bit about our claim to fame of range, and just to give you an idea of how much coverage this cordless phone can cover, we quote 3 different ranges or coverage scenarios based on the environment. So for a indoor place like a warehouse or manufacturing plant that's semi-open, semi-obstructed, you're looking about 250,000 square feet. So if you think of a grocery store as about 50,000 square feet, or a Home Depot at maybe 150,000 square feet, just give you a perspective. So about 250,000 square foot for those kind of environments. In a wide open area, someplace like a farm or a ranch, then you'd be looking about 3,000 acres of coverage. Massive, massive coverage in that wide open area. And this isn't going through trees, or you can't be obstructed with the hills or mountains, things like that. But if it is a wide open area, 3,000 acres of coverage. And then finally, 12 floors of in-building